In the meantime, I'm going to throw this over to Brian and let him take over from here. You have a great time.
Hey, Matt. So good to be here. I wanted to thank you guys for having me again. And I thought it was pretty cool because today I noticed when I put up something just so you get to know me, there was something that aired on Monday. I was out of town and I just saw it last night. So I put it up, the TV segment, and one of the guys that's in the National at Home Network, at Home Dad Network, said, "Well, I took his class a few years back when we first had our baby. It was cool. So it was really neat to see somebody that has understood the father's program that I worked on. I do a mom's program and a dad's program, breastfeeding, all that stuff. But to me, one of my favorite things to do is the Rocking Dads program. And the reason I focused my book on that is because I felt there was really a necessary, spot for it in our society right now. Just to have a different outlook from a birth professional who's a male, who's also a dad and a lactation consultant, and it was really cool. So today I thought it'd be kind of fun to, like you said, let's talk about when that baby first comes. But I want to just step back a little bit because I don't know if a lot of you guys. I wish I could see your responses and talk to you guys, but I don't know if a lot of you guys have gone through this. But when you first get pregnant, you look at that pregnancy stick, right? And I know we all did it. And we're like, whoa, this is cool. Or you're like, oh, whoa. Or you're just like, I don't know, this is so much to handle. But then if you start getting into the mode, and it's fun in the very beginning, typically for a lot of people, then some things change. And one thing I want you guys to understand is that when a woman becomes pregnant, a female of any species that's a mammal, typically they're programmed to be a little mean to the male because it's kind of a survival thing is what I learned from one of my mentors who's a cultural anthropologist and a birth expert. And she was like, Brian, it's a primal response because back in the day, women who were having babies, they had to have shelter. They were living kind of out in the wild. They needed protection, food, so that they needed to make sure that that person that was their mate was going to stick around to help them with all that stuff. And it's kind of the same thing now, but things are so different. They are so different that now we look at it and go, what are we fighting about? Or what's really going on? And a lot of times people don't understand that. So I'm going to tell you guys the secret to that part. Then we'll get to the baby. The secret to this part is changing your language, talking about the future, not worrying about what are we going to do this week and where we're going to go. But babe, I'm so excited that we're going to be parents together, and I can't wait to see you hold our baby. And that's a language that a pregnant mom typically wants to hear because that's what we're programmed to do. Whereas sometimes as guys, I had mentioned this before, we get a little nervous and sometimes we'll act out in the wrong types of behavior because we don't know how to deal with the stress or what's happening in the future. We feel like we're getting locked down and constricted. But the trick to that is to really look at it and going, this is a path that I want. This is how we're going to have fun. And it's totally easy to have a good time as a parent. I'm sorry for those of you guys that are worried about it or have gone through something. I believe it's a lot of a headspace and where you're at because this could be a really enjoyable time. But just as if anything could be, if you want it to be a good time, you got to be in it, to have a good time. So it's looking at different things. So one trick I want you guys to try is to let's make a list of if you're pregnant right now and if you're going to have a baby the next time, make a list of what you did before the baby came together. Well, what do you guys like doing? Hiking, maybe going to the market, Home Depot. I don't know, whatever you guys are into, biking. And then you think of the things you can do when you make that list with your baby. If some of them are like hitting the bar and going drinking, well, probably not. So you're gonna take that one off the list, and then you can fill it in with something like maybe we can go to the botanical gardens and take a walk around or get a membership there because we can get some exercise, show the baby colors and nature and get some communication and just bond a little bit, maybe have a picnic. So those are the types of mindsets I want you to get into. I'm not going to talk for too long because I can usually go forever and ever, but I'm going to say, so that's my early pregnancy thing. And by the way, you guys have to take a break on the looking at strollers, car seats, comparing to what everybody else has, thinking of all the things you need, and take for every day you do that, take a day to go. Let's just talk about what we need emotionally and as a couple and physically, and how are we going to reach that new intimacy of having a baby and starting our family, right? So those are some things that we got to look at. I hope that makes sense to you guys. If not, definitely write some questions. We can go over them later. And one thing I do with my expecting parents is I'll have them eye gaze, and I think this is such a strong exercise that's done so much for so many people getting into this because it's a new intimacy that's not so easy to do when you sit, hold hands, and I want you to clear your mind. And I know I sound hippie and kind of crazy, but these are the things that work and will make you guys closer and help your partner really see what you're getting into with her. And so when you do this, you hold hands and you just think of positive things for 1 minute. And at about 30 weeks, I have my clients do it every day, and they love it. It's hard at first. Most people cry, they laugh, because it's an emotion that, oh wow, I'm really being put right there in that zone, and it can be a little scary. So a lot of times you have to you learn how to do it, and as you do, you get more calm, and it helps in labor and all that stuff. And typically, I talk a lot about labor and all these things, but let's just talk about going home. Matt, are you going to join in with me at all? Because if you have some things to add too about the first day coming home, second day, third day, what was it like for you? And let's kind of bounce off that.
Well, I can't lie. I grew up an only child, and prior to holding my daughter for the first time a little over 6 years ago, I had probably like physically held maybe two babies
Hmm.
in the prior 42 years of my life. I waited a while to become a dad. It was terrifying. I won't lie. I mean, I was screaming at the parking attendants at the hospital when we showed up to go into labor, panicking over every little thing because I was completely unprepared for this in every way, shape, or form. My wife is a physician, so she knew what she was going into, um, well above and beyond what I knew. In the moment, I'm sure, as everybody knows who's been there when their child was born, all that goes out the window, man, and all that matters is that she's there, and pretty soon your kid is there, and it's just freaking incredible.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying with the preparation. And when you actually go into it, you would have had a different mindset because I would have had you go take a hospital tour, see where you're going to park. Let's go through, let's walk through what we need, and let's walk through how to keep our head straight so we can keep mom. You probably had no idea that she really needed to have the calmest, most safe, controlled, feeling really not vulnerable environment. And then when we come in yelling or getting upset with people or freaking out, that can be a little detrimental sometimes to the having a shorter labor. And a lot of people don't know that. So when guys get empowered, I'm sure you would have done the same thing, Matt, if you would have been prepared and known. You would have gone in there going, oh, it's okay, babe. We'll get the car parked. We're gonna make it in there because we're not not forget. But when you don't know what you don't know. So when you don't, you freak out. I mean, who doesn't, right? So it's just about learning those little things to make it that transition a lot easier. I'm so glad you share that too,
Oh,
Matt.
absolutely. The hardest part for me was that, the plan was we would drop the car off and they would valet the car and we would just go in. And I literally had a guard tell me that they would tow my car if I left it there, that they did not do that and that I had to park it and they had to take her without me. And
Yeah.
then no one could tell me where she was. I actually, I literally actively had to like go ask which floor they took her to. I mean, I was only like 3 or 4 minutes behind her, but in my own mind, I felt like I was going to miss everything. And
Feels like a
then,
hundred years.
right, right. And then, of course, it was a good 24 hours later before the baby was actually born because she took her time.
So when you look back, you go, man, I probably could have been a little calmer, and so that's maybe some really good information to share
Oh,
with
yeah,
younger dads.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. See, this is so great. I'm so glad I'm here tonight with all of you guys. So check this out. The other thing I was going to say is when you get home, a lot of people, there's a couple ways to do it, but we have to look at our culture. We have to look at our family dynamic and friendship dynamics. Those are so important because in America we have rituals, but they're not the same type of rituals that they do in other countries. Whereas like here, we throw all these engagement parties and this and that. Whereas they in some cultures they throw something that's more of like a before the baby comes to bless bless before the baby comes, and relate to earth and all this stuff, right? Or you have, like, in the Asian cultures, there's some postpartum rituals that they have. Well, so here a lot of people go, oh yeah, my family's going to come and help, and so they fill up their house with a bunch of people when they get home with a brand new baby, and that's just stressful. And and my suggestion is, it's one person who's going to shadow you guys first and see what you do, and then only mimic what you do and not add much more, because then it puts the baby in a routine the baby gets comfortable with, and then when that person leaves, like they're like, later's, I'm out, then your baby suddenly is like, I don't like what's happening. And when babies don't get their same routine, or they don't like something, they oppose it by crying, and they cry and cry, and it takes about 48 hours to break them from that habit before they get comfortable. Either that, or they just get so exhausted from crying and being mad, right? And so a lot of people don't understand that. What happened when you guys got home? What was your house like?
Um, well,
First baby.
well, with the first baby, we were in the hospital. It took my mother-in-law, I believe, around 24 hours after we were in labor before she was at the hospital. The baby was born, and it was probably the next morning that her mom actually flew in from Houston.
Okay.
And the original plan, well, we'll be on the original plan that she had was that she was thinking to stay for around 2 to 3 months, until we got our feet underneath us. Personal opinion, that is way too long. Nobody wants anyone in their house for 2 to 3 months. I don't care how much you love them. Nobody wants that. She ended up staying for about 5 weeks,
Hmm.
and it was really genuinely helpful, because during that initial period, we got the opportunity at least a couple of times, just the two of us, me and Angela, to get in the car and like go out to lunch.
Yeah.
Just as husband and wife, not mom, not husband wife, mom dad kind of thing.
And all you did was talk about the baby, right?
Well, of course, of course. Well,
That's the funniest thing. I love that.
the baby and the complete and utter lack of sleep. I have heard stories of people whose babies like slept through the night by the time they were like 6 weeks old. I'm incredibly jealous of those stories and those people. My daughter still wakes up at 6 years old, sometimes at 1 in the morning, to knock on the door and say something incoherent while dreaming, while we walk her back to the house, or back to her room.
It's her own house. She's in the other wing, right? No, I'm just
Right. Well, no, it's not that big of a house.
I'm kidding.
But no, to walk her back to her room. But that aspect was really nice. I truly think the hardest part was, I don't think either one of us were prepared for how much it genuinely changes who you are as a person. Um, People can talk all they want about how, I know that when my baby's born, it's going to be the most important thing in the world to me, and that's going to change everything. And I said that the same as everything else, but I certainly did not even begin to fathom the level of literal change. There is a person and a life that I had before having children, and it bears absolutely no resemblance to the person I am now or the life I have now post children.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a couple of people commenting on YouTube. One of our guys pointed out that he found the thing that impressed the nurses the most was that he took command of changing diapers right from the start.
Yeah.
He put the first diaper on, and everybody and everyone before we left, and so on.
Yeah, and well, I'm going to tell you something. Here's the thing: a lot of new dads and partners that go in, to the birth space, they're not. They don't understand the space yet, so they try and keep their distance because they don't want to touch something. We're in a hospital, and we've been programmed. We're conditioned mammals with conditioned responses, so we kind of obey that authority, and we kind of watch, right? Or we're going to be told what to do. Typically, is what we think anyway. Well, that's why I like preparing dads so strong. So when they go in there, they're more of an asset than anything in there. And they have to understand that's your baby. You have the right to touch your baby and change your baby and hold your baby and kiss your baby, keep your baby on. Your baby doesn't even need to go to the warmer, should stay on mom And to me, that's such an important thing to understand that. I see so many guys scared, and I oftentimes when I'm in the birth room, and I'll remind you guys, typically my practice is 8 to 15 births a month. The last, about half a year, I've been doing about 2 to 3 a month because I've been traveling and doing other things that I need to do with the book and all that stuff, right? So I'm right now grounded. So I just signed a bunch of babies. I've got a bunch of babies coming on from next month till about September. Then I'm going to take a little break. I think I've got a couple November babies on the books too. I do for sure.
Right.
But anyway, so that gives you the idea. I'm there, so I tell these dads, and this has been a long time for me, years, and I tell these guys, I'm like, that's your baby. It's okay, Dad. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and touch Mom. Mom, touch the baby's head. Dad, go ahead and touch the baby's head when the baby's crowning and coming out, because that influences Mom. Dad goes, oh my God, that's my baby. And it's not scary to do that. It's, people freak out because in the hospital, they sometimes make it look like a sterile field. It's not a sterile field. The baby's coming through the vagina. They may wash the outside of the vagina because that's been hours out there. They don't want to get certain bacteria because those bacteria can hurt the baby's eyes, but overall, you're just having a baby, and this is a human that you're going to have to take care of for 18 to 35 years.
Well,
living in your house for sure, right?
Yeah. Well, speaking of living in the house, one of our dads, a gentleman named Brock Luch, brought up a really, really good point that I didn't think about, because we don't have pets. We don't have pets at our house, so that wasn't an issue. But one of the things that Brock said was a big tip before going home is they took one of the blankets from the hospital that the baby had been wrapped in and took that home before they brought the baby home so that the dog could smell it
Yep.
and get used to the smell of the new baby before they brought the baby home.
Yeah.
Now, not being a pet household, this is something that never would have been crossed my mind, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of dads out there with dogs, and that sounds like a great plan. I'm not sure what effect it would have with cats.
That works really well. But
Yeah,
with
it
animals,
sounds brilliant.
yeah, with animals, you just have to know your pet's temperament. Okay, so I'll tell you my experience. We had a dog named Toby. Toby was my boy. He was leashless, a Wheaten Terrier, so he's a medium-sized dog, very smart, and he was super cool all the time until we got pregnant. And then when we had the baby, he was more withdrawn and angry. His personality changed. And he actually knocked over my daughter, Eva. She's 15 now. He knocked her over and put his paw on her and growled. And so we had to get rid of him because that was an aggressive move. And it was really hard. Not so hard when you have a baby. Because you're like, sorry, bro, you're voted off the island now. And he went to get home. But he was just a 1 to 2 human person, dog. That was his gig. So that's a very good point. You can do that. And another thing people do is they take a diaper home and wrap it up and tie it into the blanket sometimes and just put it where the dog, let the dog smell it, then put it up in the room so the dog can't really get to it, but still smells it because they're scent. So they get used to this other human knowing something's coming. And when they come, they're going to be curious, but you just have to know the temperament of your animal. All that goes for any animal that you have with a new baby. That's the best advice I can give on that. And I've seen this a lot.
Another dog hint coming from a gentleman named Frank Kuiper.
What's
He
up, Frank?
says that something that he did with their first kid was they put the empty car seat, / baby carrier,
Yeah.
in the car for the dog to get used to having a new spot to sit.
Yeah.
In the car, so that when he got in, he didn't try to wonder why there was this thing in the middle of the back seat. Again, not a pet owner, so none of this would have occurred to me. So thanks for the hints, guys.
Yes. Okay. So another thing I want to talk about is, so when we're home, you guys, when you first get home, we talk about sleep a lot, but what people forget to do, and you tell me, Matt, if you forgot to do this, my whole thing with people is, okay, set a timer every time your baby goes to sleep for 2.5 hours to not let the baby go more than that for the first week because you need to feed that baby to get the baby back up to birth weight, or else they're going to give you a lot of directions on things you need to do because they'll think your baby is not eating. And especially if you're breastfeeding, it's really important, or whenever the baby wakes up. But we go as long as 2.5. Well, I do, because I want at least 10 feeds in 24 hours. People say 8 feeds to 12 feeds. 10 feeds minimum. I just want to see that because I want to see people have success and not get stressed out at their when you go to the pediatrician, they tell you your baby's too skinny. You feel like, oh God, I'm not doing my job. What a horrible parent I am. Moms feel even worse, especially if they're breastfeeding. It's like, it's not working. I'm not doing this right. I'm wrong. I'm broken. And that's not what's happening. What's happening is usually the latch needs a little work. We need to make sure the baby's transferring milk, but a lot of people don't know that. We don't have that village anymore. So, by the way, guys, if you guys ever have questions on this, feel free to contact me. I mean, I will give you free advice. Or if there's a group of you guys that you guys all want to talk, we can just do a quick Zoom or Facebook. I'm willing to do that to help you guys out. Not a problem. I'm not going to charge you.
Yeah, and Brian is in the closed group for the National At-Home Dad Network and has his own relatively large footprint across social media as well.
Yeah, just a little, but so I love what I do. But anyway, you guys. So what happens is when that baby goes to sleep and you go home, you guys go to sleep, and that means grandma or whoever's helping you guys, your aunt, your cousin, your best friend, I don't care. They don't touch the baby. You guys do for the first day or two to get this baby in a routine where you guys all go to sleep at the same time. Wake up at the same time, feed the baby. Dad takes care of baby, or partner takes care of baby. We, change the baby after, get the baby back. And I'm going to tell you how this works. So this works like this. Sleep when the baby sleeps. When you get the baby and bring baby to mom, you also need to make sure she's feeling loved and happy. I was talking about this on that TV thing, but this is such an important thing. Make sure she feels loved and happy. And moms, postpartum, I teach a mom's class with just moms in it. And we don't talk about anything birthy, really. We talk about postpartum body. We talk about breastfeeding, fears, anxiety, family anxiety, baking boundaries. It's a whole different thing. They come in thinking, oh, let's just go, mom. Then they leave going, oh, my God, no one talks about this shit. And it's true. Oh, can I say that?
Yes, you're fine. You're fine.
Well, shit. So no one talks about this shit, and they don't. And these are things that, as a partner and a dad, if you can be aware of this, you are going to have your partner loving you so hard, because this is something a lot of people just don't understand. But when you step back and go, there's so much pressure for me. Look at mom. She has this human that's trying to feed off of her, do this and that. Maybe it's not going as well. Maybe she's hurting. Maybe, there's just a lot of things with postpartum depression. So this helps with postpartum depression. You bring that baby to her. You love on her, stroke her neck. You got to get her feeling good, because oxytocin, you guys, right there. I'm so committed, right? There's my stork. And so oxytocin is the crux of it all. That's what got you guys in these seats today. Because when you have an orgasm, big dose of oxytocin. Oxytocin is a trust hormone. Matt, we look at each other, we're like, hey, what's up? We feel good. That's oxytocin. Oxytocin is very fragile. If the least bit of stress comes in, you're like, oh, and you're stressed. So you cannot function the way you need to. And oxytocin is controlling mom's having a baby, getting pregnant, right? Making a baby, having a baby, that's your contractions, and feeding a baby. That helps get the milk out, helps mom relax, and helps her uterus contract back down to size. So it's an amazing way that it works physiologically. But what happens is you bring the baby to mom, get her comfortable, she starts feeding, the latch is on, then walk over to the kitchen, get a little bit of food, just a tiny bit of snack, and then feed mom, feed yourself, your baby's eating, you're having a family little snack, right? And then when you're done with that, go clean that up, come back, she switches sides, give her a kiss, tell her how wonderful she's doing. Go to the bathroom and get out a pad for her. She's going to be bleeding more because she was breastfeeding. And when they breastfeed, the uterus contracts, the blood comes out more. And mom's going to be bleeding for about a month. And moms forget to take care of themselves sometimes when they're so wrapped up in this, or they start getting depressed. They don't know what's up. But if you're actually there interacting lovingly, being patient, keeping calm, because this is going to pay off for you in the long run, I promise. And that as much as you want to blow up or just it's a lot to handle, the calmer you are, the bigger payoff it is for you. So you go and you get her pad out, whatever she's using, witch hazel, I don't know, make her a bath, whatever's going to happen, get it ready for her. And then you take the baby and go, babe, I put everything out, go take care of yourself. And then she does her hygiene while you do the baby's hygiene. And then if that baby falls back to sleep after you play, what do you guys do?
Go back to sleep.
Thank you. And you just follow this routine. And when you have someone watching you, make them watching for a couple of days. Then they can bring the food to you. Then they can do this. But I really like dad for the first week, at least to 2 weeks, to really be doing the main pulling. Even though it's tough, let her help after you go back to work or whatever's going on. Or if you're staying at home and you guys are both at home, do some of that. Pull that, because that shows your partner you're really there, and that helps your relationship. It helps her confidence. It helps her postpartum depression, everything. Because and also, you guys, You have to make it very well known that we're not going to play the mystery game. If you need something from me, babe, I need you to tell me exactly what you need because I can't read minds and I'm going to tell you what I need, but I need you to tell me because a lot of times I hear these partners and these women come to me a lot because I mean I have a pretty big I see God in my 15 years here I've seen over 25,000 clients. That's a lot
It's
in
a
one way
lot.
or another. Class, probably more than that, with going all over the nation and doing everything. But over 25,000, I can confidently say I've been interacted with one way or another in the birth baby aspect. Okay, and I'm going to tell you something. Women come to me all the time and they go, "He just doesn't do anything," and I'm like, what do you mean? And when I do my mom's class, I'll ask them a question, and they go, "Oh, he's just not helping." Well, what isn't he doing? Well, just stuff. And I'm like, "Well, does he take out the trash?" Well, yeah. Well, did he do that? Yeah. Well, what did he do? Well, he doesn't fold the clothes right. Well, teach him how to fold the clothes. But you got to tell him what he's not doing right. Instead, you get this anxiety, and that's the man and woman swing. And the only way to control that swing is to make your own momentum, so that you're controlling the swing so that we don't do the up and down. But you got to make sure there's clear communication. It makes such a difference. Any experiences with that, Matt, where you guys had the learning curve?
We actually came up with a pretty good system from the
I want to
beginning.
hear it.
Um,
I might steal it.
what we did is, we had the crib in our room, probably for the first month or two before we moved the crib into the nursery, just because there was a hike involved. We've got a long hallway, and our room is at the end of the hallway, and the baby's room is further forward.
Very high incline, steep incline.
No,
No, I'm just
no, no.
kidding.
It's not like really steep. It's not like an ice skating rink, but we wanted to keep the walking to a minimum. So we had her in the room, and the routine that we fell into, especially in the beginning when she was breastfeeding, is when the baby would wake up, I would get up immediately and I would immediately check diaper, change diaper, clean up baby, and all the rest of it, while she would wake up and take care of the things that she needed to do. Because just like most people, when you wake up in the middle of the night, first thing you got to do is pee. You don't want to latch a baby on and then realize, oops, I forgot to do that.
Yeah, well, you're doing that.
Right, right. Like it would give her a chance to go and use the bathroom, that type of thing. She would sit down with the baby and begin feeding. I would go make sure that she had a glass of ice water, if she had a snack, if she wanted a snack. And then the last thing that I would do is I would look up and say, "Do you have everything that you need?" And if she said yes, I would lay back down in the bed and go back to sleep. And if she said no, I would say, "What else do you need?" And I would get that for her. And then I would go back to sleep. And when she finished with the baby, she would put Lily down and then she would get back into bed.
Were there ever times when you were going back to sleep and she didn't need anything, but she wanted to talk
Um,
company, or was it too tired at night?
no, in the beginning, not so much. In the beginning, mostly she really enjoyed the quiet time. We started off playing like different CDs of music that she liked. Eventually, we settled on one CD, period, and that
Mhm.
was the Buena Vista Social Club
Nice.
because she liked the music and doesn't speak fluent Spanish, so the lyrics didn't get repetitive in her head.
Like it?
So, to
No
this,
earworm?
well, yeah, to this day, my 6-year-old still goes to sleep every night to the Buena Vista Social Club CD playing in her room. My 3-year-old goes to sleep to a relatively unknown artist named David Kirchner or David. I never remember his name. He plays the hang drum, which is this weird giant, like turtle shell made of metal, like an inverted steel drum that you play with your hands. It's very hypnotic, but that was what she was into while breastfeeding him, and he goes to sleep to that one. And that was pretty much it. The only thing that we really had besides that was it was probably, well, my wife was very lucky. The company that she works for gave her 3 months of maternity leave, a full 90 days to bond with her child, which is a rarity in the world today.
Yeah.
So she got to spend some good quality time, and it probably wasn't until the last month that we began easing into bottle feeding. just because we wanted to get her used to it before mom went away to work one day and suddenly I was shoving something new into the kid's mouth. And we managed to transition into that relatively well. And once we transitioned to the bottle, there were a couple of times that I would take the nighttime feedings with a bottle, but not really that often because more often than not, she was more than happy to feed just to empty things out
Yeah.
and to keep milk production going.
Smart. That's
You
the way to do
know,
it.
but other than that, it was a pretty easy transition. Once she left, it was really, our oldest was a relatively easy one. The youngest, not so much. Patrick came along, and he was, even long after getting off of breastfeeding, he was very much I'm going to wake up and scream, and you're just going to have to come in and hold me and console me until I fall asleep,
Yeah.
and try to put me back in the crib like a ninja before I wake up and scream again. Which I'm sure all of us have gone through that
Yeah.
experience.
I had a good sleeper and I had a bad sleeper. My youngest was not a good sleeper for a while. She would get cranky and she would wake up in the morning and do roll call when she was like one. She'd go Dada, Edda. She'd call Eva Edda. It was so funny. She'd call her cat Nico. It was really funny.
Yeah, see, again, my daughter is now at the point where she will wake up in the morning, and if no one else is awake, she will very quietly just sit in her room and play with her Legos or tell stories or do whatever.
Yeah.
My 3-year-old Patrick, from the moment he wakes up, will scream, "Mom, Mom, Daddy,
I
Daddy,
met him.
Mom!"
Yeah, I met him on the over this last time we were doing this.
Yes.
He's a wild one. He's like my Daisy.
You might hear him in the background right now.
Is that him?
Yes, that is him. You hear
I
in the
didn't know if it's
background
something
right now.
Daisy's listening to. Daisy's upstairs watching. So she's watching some K-pop show, and it's like I don't know. The noises are weird.
Yeah, no, he's objecting to having his teeth brushed and going to bed.
That's so funny. Well, okay, so yeah, so that's the routine coming home, and just I'm going to tell you guys, there's a couple things that I see a lot. So I go to do breastfeeding house calls, so I'll do a lactation home consult, right? People hire me to come to the house and figure out what's going on, and so when I do that, one of the first things I do is I look around at the environment. Environment has so much to do with it. So if things are chaotic and there's 2 or 3 TVs going on and there's music over one place and there's a big stack of dishes, these are all things like that stress a mom out and they may not even know it, and even a dad out because you see the work that needs to be done, you see this, you see that, and then I'll always ask, well, how are you doing? What's going on? How's this been? And I'll hear the story unfold. And it seems like there's usually just a lot of static, and I like to do my when I go to do a house call, I'll try and do it as close to 7 or 8 p.m. A lot of times. If I'll go during the day, but if they're saying they're not doing well at night, I want to see what their night routine is. Nighttime, that's where the wild things are for sure, because we don't realize how important this is. Setting a circadian rhythm, which means night and day difference, the rhythm your body has to learn to kick into. That's why shift workers have an issue with that. If they're working overnight, you have an ER doctor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, ER psych, but I
Yeah.
also at one point in my life was an overnight baker as part of my chef career. So I remember
Yeah.
working from midnight to 8 in the morning.
Yeah, and so this, that it's just same thing with the babies. They don't know what's going on, so they think nighttime is playtime and this time's playtime and this is going, so they don't understand it. Or there's a lot of kissing and talking and oh baby woo. The way that I look at it, a lot of times when it's 7 p.m., there's no more goo goo gaga, there's no more playing. It's all business. Feed, swaddle, or change, swaddle, sleep, get up, feed, change, reswaddle, sleep, and there's no, oh, I love you. You can't help it. They're so cute, but they have to learn that. And the lights are dim and there's no music going on unless you're doing like white noise or something like that, which is fantastic, by the way. I sleep with white noise still. I love it. And so, which is fantastic. And so doing something like that. And then you go out to the room where you have the TV and stuff. During the day, I don't care if you're running the vacuum when they're sleeping or doing this and that. They know it's a different type of sleeping time. Another thing that I'm going to give you that is a huge tip, you guys. This is big. when you have a newborn at home, and a lot of people don't know this, there's a couple things. Well, there's a lot of things, but two that really stand out that I think people have a hard time understanding is their baby's cues, like their feeding cues, when they're crying and upset, how to calm a baby, why the baby's upset, and a lot of times it's learning to read your baby. And one thing that I see people do is babies, when they're newborn, they're kind of on autopilot. And over the course of, a couple of, that first couple of weeks, they have a very small window for their real bonding. This is the first thing. So you'll be holding the baby. And remember how right before you're going to feed the baby, maybe 15, 20 minutes before they really get hungry? And by the way, the answer to when do you know a baby's hungry is not when the baby cries. That's way too far late. It's when the baby is rooting and goes, I know I do that too well, right? I'm a big ass baby. But what happens, you guys, is you have to learn to read those cues. The other thing is those babies, when you look at them right before and you're playing, and suddenly that baby locks eyes with you, and they get relaxed, and they're like, and you're like, oh, my baby. Well, a lot of times they can only handle that for a very short amount of time, a couple minutes, and then they turn their head and look away, and moms are going, no, look at me, baby. Oh, well, what about this? What's wrong? And the baby's like, I just had way too much information for my little brain, and I'm trying to figure this out. And so they need that time off, which means usually just a firm hold against your chest and still. I see people feeding these babies, moms trying to feed their babies and they're stroking their head and doing that. Just distracts a newborn because they're on autopilot right now. And they're going to use a reflex, and the reflex is they're getting stimulated, so they're going to follow it and track. And so they pull the nipple and hurt mom, right? Another thing is when babies are sleeping and you think they're really not, babies do something different than we do. When they're in REM sleep, when we're in REM sleep, we're paralyzed. We cannot run from the witch, right? We're like stuck. We're like, oh, okay. So when they're in REM sleep, they do this, they go, and we think, oh, something's wrong. Oh, something's wrong. You got to just let it be and watch until they're really awake and crying. They may even open their eyes. So you got to learn your baby's sleep pattern, because people go and they try and calm the baby during that part, and all they did was just ruin their deepest, most important sleep.
And, so then they end up waking them up when you open the door.
And they think they have a cranky baby, and they think this. No, your baby's just not getting what your baby needs. There's always an answer to a cranky baby, and I wish I knew more of them, 15 years ago when I was just really getting into babies, because I had one. That's what got me. I went out of the
crash course for most of us.
Yeah, and so I had to learn hard, and then over the time, learning all these new things and getting all these new patients and this and that, I've learned a lot. And I also, you guys, I never think I know too much. I just did 18 hours of continuing education that I wanted to do on lactation and some other stuff, because it's important. I like to keep learning. So if you guys have anything you want to share with me, I'd love to hear it. But that's another thing. So those are some other tips for new babies. Is everybody having a good time in learning anything? We're going to find out.
At the moment right now, I'm looking. We've got a few extra comments, most of them having to do with that same ritual of bringing the baby home and the early days. One of our guys was talking about how shortly after they got home, they had a strict rule where they stayed at home by themselves and had no company for the first week or two.
I love that.
Just to give themselves time to rest and adjust to the new life before they started inviting other people over. We've had a couple of guys look up and say, thank you just for sharing the information that you're sharing. They really appreciate it.
Anytime.
One of the questions that I was going to ask, and I know that this is one that comes up all the time, and a lot of
my answer is I was young and broke. No, I'm just kidding.
This is one that comes up in a lot of the dad groups that I'm in, is that first transition where you're moving your kid from bottles and breastfeeding to solid foods. Are there any tricks or ideas that you have to, for lack of a better term, train your kid to be an adventurous eater?
Well, okay, here's the thing that I see a lot of. I see a lot of people giving babies juice all the time, and juice just doesn't have to be a part of that whole thing. When they first start getting, because then they start getting this sugar craving. So they're going to start craving more sugar, because that's just the way sugar works. The more you have, the more you crave it. That's why kids like all those starchy things, and they start eating more and more and more, right? And we start running into childhood obesity and things like that. So so with kids, typically, like the way that I was not perfect at this. I got better with the second one. We got better with the second one. We tried our best, and we thought we were really awesome, but I think we weren't quite there yet. So with Daisy, she has always been hungry. My daughter is 10. She's upstairs right now. She is 5'4" and 120 pounds, and she looks like she's 14, 15. She's bigger than my 15-year-old. And I mean, same parents, right? I mean, it just happens that way. She's just built differently. And Daisy, at 4 months, was starving. We had to start introducing like the cereal to her at 4 months, not six. And then we went at about 4.5 months. I'm like, this is not doing it. So I started introducing banana, smashed banana, and then I would smash avocado into the banana because avocado is pretty tasteless if you put it with something sweet. It'll overcome the natural avocado taste and just become smoother, right? Like that's why you put avocado in a smoothie, you never know what's in there. And you're getting all those good fats. It's true. And it makes the smoothie
Hmm.
so much smoother, right? Well, you're a chef. You know these tricks. It's that beautiful fat that's so good for you. So I did that, and then I started maybe I'll add some black beans in there and smash them up in there, and then maybe little cut pieces of chicken, and you just kind of let's like start moving around, and whether you're a vegetarian, whether you eat whatever the hell you want or whatever, kids got to get used to eating the stuff you like to eat, or else you're not going to be happy because you're going to be making two or three different meals. My 15-year-old is vegan. So I've got like a whole other ritual here. She stays at her mom's more now that she's gotten older because they're both vegan. Daisy and I are the carnivores. Daisy and I are adventurous and like to do our thing. They like to do their thing, and then we all get together and do things. Yeah,
Right.
type of situation, right? So so it's just the way it works. We're a split household, and we have personality types. so yeah, so Daisy, luckily, she eats pretty similar to what I'll eat. She's pretty good about that. I mean, she likes her special treats here and there and whatever, but she'll
So
eat. And I eat basically paleo. I mean,
So
more or
pretty much
less.
the idea is to, introduce the same foods that you
Yeah.
are eating as adults in your home, just,
Remember whatever mom eats. Yeah.
made in a way that works for them to be able to eat it. Obviously, you can't hand an infant a chicken leg, but little pieces of
Well,
chicken
you
and that
can. No, just kidding.
little pieces of chicken and that kind of thing. I know
Tiny cuts.
you were talking about the low weight and having to add into the cereals and stuff. I
Yeah.
know that our 3-year-old went through a period, I guess, when he was about one, when his weight wasn't increasing at the level that it was supposed to. Shortly after we switched to solid foods,
Hmm.
and we went and talked to our primary care physician because we actually have one of those good old fashioned family doctors where the whole family sees the same doctor, which is really convenient if you could pull it off.
Yeah.
Um, but when we were talking, she hooked us up with a nutritionist, and that we were talking about feedings and that type of thing. And they were talking about like adding milk powder to the oatmeal and that type of thing to add in calories. And that struck me as kind of odd because my suggestion to her was rather than adding milk powder, why not just make the oatmeal with heavy whipping cream instead of milk? Because now you're talking 30% fat versus 10% fat. So, there's a significant increase in calories. And we went with that, and that worked really well. Unfortunately, now I have a 3-year-old with a taste for heavy whipping cream, and when we make mac and cheese or oatmeal or that type of thing. But
For sure.
there are worse problems to have.
For real. But I think like you said, it just kids are gonna instinctively eat what mom was eating when she was pregnant. They're gonna like those things usually because they're getting tastes of it while they're in the womb. That's why when you have different cultures, like you say, you have an Indian couple, right, from India. They're gonna eat spicier foods, and the kids are gonna be ready to take that on because that's what they eat. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's what's in your family, right? Same thing with like Asian foods or certain types of Russian foods, whatever, any kind of food you're at. Babies, they have to learn to thrive in the environment that they're in. So they have to develop a taste for those foods, or else they're in trouble because they won't
Well,
thrive.
for those of you who know me that are out there in the audience, my big thing has always been like curing my own meats and sausages and salamis and that type of thing. And I do have it from the medical perspective that you're not supposed to give your kid cured meats until they're at least a year old. So no bacon, no ham, no salamis. The nitrates are really bad for them.
All right. So there we got it. I don't know as much about the nutrition thing besides I'm good at breastfeeding, but
yeah. I have pictures of my daughter holding up her first piece of bacon on her first birthday, triumphantly over her head, with a slightly betrayed look in her eye. With that, you've had
after
this all this time,
right?
Yeah, and you never gave it to me. What's wrong with you?
So I want to say something. One of the guys mentioned that when they got there, when they got home, they didn't let people come over for about a week. But some people they need help with like food or this and that because they're just maybe it's just hard for them to get it all together. Well, there's something called Meal Train online, and you can ask anybody if you want to help us out. This would be really great. Here are some of the things we like to eat. So you list out the places and what you like and what they can make. And then you put their email addresses in, and then there's a calendar, and they can pick where they want to put it. And then you can say, we're not really having visitors this week, but we need your support and your love. We'd love a note from you guys of support, and we love you guys. We're going to leave something outside, and you can just put the food in there. And people will do that and then say, and we're going to have a sip and see in about a week or 2 weeks. And then you have like a little, tea party for everybody or whatever. Cocktail party, whatevs, man. Hey, mocktails.
Whatever works.
Get your mommy mocktails on, right? And remember, when you're breastfeeding, you can drink. Mom can drink when she's breastfeeding now. Just don't get so wasted you drop a baby.
Right.
So don't get white girl wasted on the White Claws, okay? Calm down. No. But I mean, you can get any cultural wasted you want. Don't just get. Sorry, I don't know if we can say those terms anymore. I'm so confused. All right, so this is the other thing I was going to say is when you're at the hospital too, guys. If you don't want to be really stressed out, I would wait till your wife is about 8 centimeters, or you're going to start to push because it's going to take her a half an hour to 45 minutes typically at least to push that baby out on a first baby, for sure. Sometimes even longer, but if they're waiting and it's a slower labor and it takes a long time, like your 24-hour labor, imagine if your mother-in-law would have been there, right? And she would have been out in the waiting room and then coming back to the room. Or if she's not, she's going to keep blowing you up, texting, why aren't you letting me in? I want to see my daughter. I want to see whatever, right? And I see this all the time, you guys. And I tell people, just don't tell them until we're pushing. And then they get there, and then they get what they came for, a baby. Right. They don't need to be there while you're pushing, because when they come in and go, oh, grandma's waiting for you. Come on, baby. You touch mom's tummy. Oh, come on, we're waiting. We all want to meet you. Then mom gets like, oh, God, I'm going too slow. What's going on? Because remember, she's vulnerable right now. She's thinking differently because she's about to have a baby and her body's doing something. So really taking all those different things into consideration makes a big, big difference.
It absolutely does. Again, and there's for those of you who are looking at your second baby coming along, who are sticking with or who have already had their first, the birthing experience for the second baby was an entirely different experience than it was with our first baby. With our first baby, the time from the first contraction until birth was probably a total of 36 hours. And there was probably a good 4 hours of hard pushing. With the second baby, like, she woke up to go to work and water broke. And we grabbed the go bag because we already had that packed, and we hopped in the car and we drove to the hospital, and she went in, and I think she pushed maybe 3 times. And on the push, she was out.
Yeah, how dilated was she when she got to the hospital? Was she complete?
Pretty close. Pretty close. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was nowhere near like. There was none of the Pitocin required the second time.
Pitocin, yeah.
There we go. Pitocin.
That's oxytocin.
Right. There was none of the Pitocin required to help induce anything. Like it went much smoother and much quicker. He also came out a whole lot more active.
Did she have an epidural the first time?
No, the second time she did.
Okay.
The first time we were part of a group, it was a relatively new process at that time But I believe at the time UNC in Chapel Hill and I want to say a Vanderbilt hospital
Yeah.
were the two that they were trying it with, where they were using self-administered nitrous.
Yep. Yes.
And she did the self-administered nitrous, and she was really, really impressive. And when the second baby came around, she asked me, how I felt if she would want to get the epidural. And I laughed and explained to her that if it was me, I would have them come to the house and give me the epidural before I got in the car to drive to the hospital, because there's no way I could go through what she went through. And so she did the epidural the second time. And yeah, it was a little bit less dramatic.
How funny is it? That's well, whatever works. I always tell people just be careful with the epidural. Try not to go over 4 hours if you really want to
Oh
breastfeed
no,
efficiently.
no.
Because a lot of people have
it was quick and easy.
20 hours. Yeah, a quick one is great. In and out, bang.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about when? Wait, are we gonna have to do another one of these and talk about when kids get a little older?
We may have to.
I can't believe how long we've gone because I want to do a Q&A.
I'm looking. We're at 50 minutes. I'm not seeing.
How did that happen?
Well,
I just looked at him and went, what?
Well, both of us really do enjoy talking, so I'm not ashamed of that fact.
Well, I love that you're able to give your point of view and part
Oh
of the story.
yeah.
I think it would be so fantastic to get a big group of guys on a Zoom one day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we open it up and we say there's going to be however many we can put on a Zoom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like efficiently. Maybe we top it up at 20, and we do a cool video where you and I maybe can moderate it and then ask all these questions about babies and birth and answer them and have fun for people. So
it might be something that we could get one of our members involved in. We have one of the members of the network is a gentleman named Donald Hudson.
Hey, Donald.
You know Don.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Don Hudson last year at Home Dad Con was doing a film project that he's calling Birth Stories, where he gets different dads together to tell their stories of their children's birth. Unfortunately, I was a little tied up, so I didn't get to participate. By the time I got free, they had already broken down the equipment. But yeah, that would be something that I would love to put together and see if we could get Don involved with.
That'd be so much fun. I'm always down for whatever. I mean, I really enjoy what I do, and I love reaching out with everybody. How are you noticing this eye is drooping?
No.
I think I've had really bad. I was gone. I just got back from vacation yesterday, last night. And I woke up yesterday with my eyes really itchy. Well, I don't know if it's just allergies, but this one is like so swollen. And I have to take another antihistamine, and then it goes away.
Okay. Well, that's the good news. Well, look, Brian, I cannot thank you enough for joining us.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate it. It was great to have you. We will have to get together another time, and we can start talking about some of the older kids' issues.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I want to thank everybody for watching and coming to join us, both those of you that watched us live and those of us who are going to be watching the recording of this later, which will be available on our YouTube channel. We'll keep it on our Facebook pages and the rest of it so that it's easily findable. Without giving too much away, I'm locking down a date for next month's webinar. It is going to be at the end of July. And we're actually going to focus on something really, really lighthearted and fun and just something to give us a little bit of a break from the seriousness that's happening everywhere these days. We're actually going to be talking about literally playing games with your kids. So hopefully that'll be happening in the last weekend of July. We'll be getting further details out to you guys as soon as we can.
I'm going to have to show you guys a picture to end on that note.
Okay.
This is one of my favorite pictures from the trip. And I'm going to tell you guys, and I'll tell you why. Because we had my daughter Daisy and two of our friends were there. They're really sweet kids. They're like my kids. I'm like their godfather, Stella and Lola. And my girlfriend is like the Pied Piper with those guys. And they just have so much fun. They were playing, I don't know if you guys know the game, the Loteria game.
Mm-mm.
It's a Mexican bingo game that it's funny. The pictures are all funny. Oh gosh, where is this picture? I have to show it. Hold on. I lost my drone on vacation too. But that happens. Well, All right, but they were playing the lottery, and I had the cutest picture of all of them, but I can't seem to find it. I think 'cause I want to find it right
That's
now.
okay. There's an easy solution to that.
I'm gonna share it with you
I would
guys.
say when you find it, throw it in the comments.
Yeah, because it was just great. It was so fun. All right, you guys.
Hey, look, everybody have a great night. I'm glad you came to join us. Thanks again so much, Brian. If you get a chance to pick up Brian's book, I highly recommend it. What's the title again?
Oh, come on. It's called The Birth Guy's Go-To Guide for New Dads. It's on Amazon. It's everywhere. It's in 9 countries right now in 3 languages.
So if you get a chance, go pick it up. I was lucky enough to get a copy from you at Dad 2.0. And even though I'm long past needing it, I was more than happy to read it because as a part of the network, we like to try to help out all the other new dads that are out there. So again, thank you from the National At Home Dad Network, and everybody have a great night.